also means you're probably gonna end up with an ear full of paint. Because I need to paint your ear on your ear. Everything in the scene, the person, the clothes, chairs, wall, gets covered in a mask of paint that mimics what's directly below it. And in this way, I'm able to take a three-dimensional scene and make it look like a two-dimensional painting. I can photograph it from any angle, and it will still look 2D. There's no Photoshop here. This is just a photo of one of my three-dimensional paintings. You might be wondering how I came up with this idea of turning people into paintings. But originally, this had nothing to do with either people or paint. It was about shadows. I was fascinated in the absence of light, and I wanted to find a way that I could give it materiality and pin it down before it changed. I came up with the idea of painting shadows. I loved that I could hide within this shadow my own painted version, and it would be almost invisible until the light changed, and all of a sudden, my shadow would be brought to the light. I wanted to think about what else I could put shadows on. And I thought of my friend Bernie. But I didn't just want to paint the shadows. I also wanted to paint the highlights and create a mapping on his body in grayscale. I had a very specific vision of what this would look like. And as I was painting him, I made sure to follow that very closely. But something kept on flickering before my eyes. I wasn't quite sure what I was looking at. And then when I took that moment to take a step back, magic. I had turned my friend into a painting. I couldn't have foreseen that when I wanted to paint a shadow, I would pull out this whole other dimension, that I would collapse it, that I would take a painting and make it my friend, and then bring him back to a painting. I was a little conflicted though, because I was so excited about what I'd found, but I was just about to graduate from college with a degree in political science, and I'd always had this dream of going to Washington, D.C., and sitting at a desk and working in government. Why did this have to get in the way of all that? I made the tough decision of going home after graduation and not going up to Capitol Hill, but going down to my parents' basement and making it my job to learn how to paint. I had no idea where to begin. The last time I painted, I was 16 years old at summer camp. And I didn't want to teach myself how to paint by copying the old masters or stretching a canvas and practicing over and over again on that surface, because that's not what this project was about for me. It was about space and light. My early canvases ended up being things that you wouldn't expect to be used as canvas, like fried food. It's nearly impossible to get paint to stick to the grease in an egg. Even harder was getting paint to stick to the acid in a grapefruit. It just would erase my brush strokes like invisible ink. I'd put something down and instantly it would be gone. And if I wanted to paint on people, well, I was a little bit embarrassed to bring people down to my studio and show them that I spent my days in a basement putting paint on toast. It just seemed like it made more sense to practice by painting on myself. One of my favorite models actually ended up being a retired old man who not only didn't mind sitting still and getting the paint in his ears, but he also didn't really have much embarrassment about being taken out into very public places for exhibition, like the Metro. I was having so much fun with this process. I was teaching myself how to paint in all these different styles, and I wanted to see what else I could do with it. I came together with the collaborator, Sheila Vand, and we had the idea of creating paintings in a more unusual surface, and that was milk. We got a pool, we filled it with milk, we filled it with Sheila, and I began painting. And the images were always completely unexpected in the end, because I could have a very specific image about how it would turn out. I could paint it to match that, but the moment that Sheila laid back into the milk, everything would change. It was in constant flux. And we had to, rather than fight it, embrace it, see where the milk would take us and compensate, to make it even better. Sometimes when Sheila would lay down in the milk, it would wash all the paint off of her arms. And it might seem a little bit clumsy, but our solution would be, okay, hide your arms. And one time, she got so much milk in her hair that it just smeared all the paint off of her face. All right, well, hide your face. And we ended up with something far more elegant than we could have imagined, even though this is essentially the same solution that a frustrated kid uses when he can't draw hands, just hiding them in the pocket. When we started out on the milk project, and when I started out, I couldn't have foreseen that I would go from pursuing my dream in politics and working at a desk to tripping over a shadow and then turning people into paintings and painting on people in a pool of milk. But then again, I guess it's also not unforeseeable that you can find the strange in the familiar, as long as you're willing to look beyond what's already been brought to light, that you can see what's below the surface, hiding in the shadows, and recognize that there can be more there than meets the eye. Thank you.
자, 읽어봤죠? 네, 풀어보세요. 답 이따가 맞춰줄게. 자, 풀어봤어? 풀어봤어? 자, 봅시다. 자, not true. 다음과 안 맞는 거 골라보자. 네. 자, 이 사람의 직업은 페인터 맞죠? 그치? 그 다음에 자, 이 사람은 기본적으로 어디에다가 캔버스에다가 그리는 게 아니라 물체에다가 그리죠. 됐지? 네. 자, 그리고 그녀의 작업은 무슨 차원? 3차원. 정답 몇 번? D번. 그쵸? 네. 포토샵 아니죠. 그 다음 2번. 자, 이번엔 true 골라볼게요. 그치? 네. 자, 원래 얘는 사진에 관심이 있었니? 없었어요. 그쵸? 네. 그리고 3번 볼게. 그녀는 확신했습니까? 자기가 성공할 거라고? 아니죠. 그쵸? 네. 그 다음에 그녀의 친구가 마음에 안 들었니? 마음에 들었습니다. 오, 너 굉장히 재능이 있구나. 정답 몇 번? 2B번. 그치? 네. 얼굴이랑 몸에다가 네 그렸죠. 자, 그 다음에 다음 중 따르면 이 사람은 실제 물건을 어떻게 그렇지 physical 뭐 대신에 어디 대신에 캔버스 대신에 사람 신체에다가 그렸죠. 그쵸? 네. 쉬었죠? 그 다음 자, 다음 중 언급되지 않은 것 달걀 언급됐고요, grapefruit 언급됐고요, bread 언급됐지. 야, 근데 이거는 일반적으로 뭐 듣지 않아도 뭐 써보이는 말이 안 되지 않니? 그쵸? 이해되시죠? 네. 자, 그 다음 which of the following is not true? A번 맞습니까? 심지어 아까 뭐 했어? oatmeal 우유에도 뭐를 하려고 했다? 페인팅을 하려고 했습니다. 2번 맞는 말이고요. C번 갑니다. 아까 뭐라 그랬지? public space, 즉 공공장소에 누구나 다 지나가는 사람들이 볼 수 있도록 전시해 놓을 예정이라고 했고요. 그러면 이미 전시가 됐다라는 걸 추론해 볼 수 있죠. 그 다음, 자, 그녀는 생각해냈습니다. 우리가 뭐하다라는 거, 뭔가 낯설다는 거, 어디에서 익숙한 곳에서 낯선 거를 발견해낼 수 있다라고. 그게 이 사람의 궁극적인 목표였죠, 그치? 네. 그래서 정답은 몇 번? B번. 네. 그녀는 뭐를 전공했다? 피나트를 전공하지 않았습니다. 그치? 됐죠? 다 맞은 사람?
단어 쓰는 거 하나 빼고
오, 그래? 단어 쓰는 거 뭐?
그 피지컬리를 못 써가지고
뭐로 썼는데?
그냥 못 썼어요.
아, 그거 썼어. 알겠어요. 여태까지 다 몸에다 그린 거잖아. 그치? 신체죠. 너?
저도 피지컬.
그래요. 네, 그래도 내용은 다들 뭐 잘 이해했네요. 그치? 네. 오케이. 그러면 자, 듣기 합시다. 듣기 제 피세요.